Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about the Social Security cost of living adjustment, what it is, what it's been in the past, and what we can expect it to be next year. Before we dive in, please take a minute and check out the link you see on your screen, fool.com/Frankel. Get the top 10 stocks to buy right now from my sponsor, The Motley Fool. It's a great way to support this work I'm doing on YouTube. Again, that is fool.com/Frankel. So let's dive right into it, how it works. So each year, inflation causes expenses to go up for Americans of all ages, and retirees generally get Social Security benefits. And in order for their Social Security benefits to keep up with the rising cost of living over time, they are increased most years in response to inflation. So the general method is that Social Security cost of living adjustments are based on consumer price index data, which is the preferred inflation metric, specifically the CPIW, which is the consumer price index for urban wage earners and clerical workers. Just call it the CPIW. It's the measure of inflation that these are based on. Now, it might sound strange, but they are based on a very specific comparison of inflation data, specifically the third quarter of each year. Now, it doesn't matter what inflation's doing in January, February, March specifically. They compare the third quarter average of this year with the third quarter average of last year, and that's where your Social Security cost of living adjustment comes from. So, for example, last year, the Social Security cost of living adjustment was 3.2%. So, where did that come from? I'm going to share my screen just for a second here. All right, so if you can see that, this is the average CPIW for each quarter, year by year. So, starting in 1974, you can see what the CPI index is. Now, these numbers themselves aren't terribly important. What is important is I'm going to scroll all the way down to the current year. So, if we look at for 2023, this is quarter one right here. The next column's quarter two, quarter three, quarter four, and then the full year average. So, where that 3.2% cost of living adjustment for last year came from is we take the number you see right here under the third quarter column for 2023, the 301.236, and if we divide that by the number right above it, which is the third quarter of 2022, the 291.901, if you divide one of those by the other, you'll see it is almost exactly a 3.2% year over year increase. Now, that's not necessarily the case if you compare the second quarter, the first quarter, etc., but this is how your Social Security cost of living adjustment is calculated. So, obviously, we don't know for a fact what the cost of living adjustment will be for next year because we don't have third quarter inflation data yet. It hasn't happened yet. We're in the third quarter as I'm recording this. But we do know, I can kind of give you some context about what it looks like what it's looked like in the past, highs and lows. I mentioned last year's cost of living adjustment was 3.2%. You can see that right here on your screen. This is a list of every cost of living adjustment that has been given to Social Security beneficiaries since 1975. Now, why 1975? Because before 1975, cost of living adjustments were not necessarily based on inflation data. They were kind of granted by Congress. They had to be legislated. It required congressional approval. So it wasn't necessarily the same method. So it's really not an apples to apples comparison to look any further back than 1975. So if you look at all this, you can see that the highest cost of living adjustment there's ever been was in 1980 when retirees got a 14.3% adjustment. The lowest was zero in a few different years, actually. Right around the time of the financial crisis, there were 2 consecutive years where we were actually in a deflationary environment for some of it, and the cost of living adjustment was zero. That happened again in 2015. You know, there have been some very small ones like the 0.0 or the 0.3 you see in 2016. And the long-term average, if I take all these numbers, there are 49 different years of data here, and average them together, you get 3.77%, or about 3.8% would be the long-term average cost of living adjustment. Now, one thing that's worth noting is that these are kind of the years are kind of misleading in the sense that you don't actually get the cost of living adjustment for until the following year. So, for example, it says the 2023 cost of living adjustment was 3.2%. Now, those go into effect in December of each year. You can see like the little footnote under it, the COLA for December 1999. So each year these go into effect in December. But Social Security is paid 1 month in arrears. In other words, if you're a Social Security beneficiary, it's July as I'm recording this, the benefit you get in July that you physically receive in July is for June. So another, for these purposes, the benefit that you receive in January is the benefit that is for December. So yes, you got a 3.2% raise in December of 2023, but you didn't actually see it reflected in your Social Security payments until the one that you received in January 2024. So when we say what is the cost of living adjustment going to be for next year, we're actually talking about the 2024 COLA. So just kind of a little housekeeping note to keep in mind there. Now, as I said, obviously we don't know what the cost of living adjustment is going to be just yet. As you saw in this screen, the latest full quarter that we have data for as I'm recording this on July 9th is the first quarter of 2024, which has nothing to do with what the cost of living adjustment is going to be for next year. So we'll have to wait a few months to get the actual data. We should know sometime in mid-October officially what the cost of living adjustment is going to be. But based on just what we know now, we can kind of project. The latest projections are that retirees are going to get about a 2.6% cost of living adjustment, beginning with their benefit payment in December 2024, which of course you would receive in January 2025. So 2.6% is actually below the historic average, which is kind of a good thing right now. Of course, everyone wants an 8.7% raise like you got in 2022 right there. But the 2.6% means that inflation has been getting under control, which is definitely a good thing for the economy. I mean, interest rates are falling and have a bunch of other implications when it comes to consumer confidence. So, yes, it can be a little bit of a disappointment that it's the lowest raise retirees will have gotten in 4 years. But it's a good economic indicator, and it should be a positive sign that the Fed's efforts to reduce inflation are working. Now, what this means to the average worker, and then we'll wrap it up. This is the latest Social Security statistical snapshot, which the latest one is, you can see right here, May 2024. This tells you kind of the averages of everything. So if we look right here, the column that says, or the row that says retired workers. So the average retired worker gets a monthly Social Security benefit of $1,916.63 as of May 2024. And if the cost of living adjustment is as expected, it would mean about an extra $49 of monthly Social Security income for the average retiree. Now, not everyone is the average retiree. There are other types of Social Security benefits, as you see in this chart. There's spousal benefits. Some children of retired workers receive benefits in some cases. There's survivors benefits, disability benefits. There's a lot of different Social Security benefits. All of them would get the same cost of living adjustment, so it would be impactful for everybody who gets Social Security, not just retirees. But that's how it works. That's what we expect right now in 2025. I'll do another video when we know for sure, just to kind of keep you updated. Please leave me any comments you have. I'll do my best to answer any questions individually, and hope you enjoyed this. I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. The Motley Fool is a company that provides investing insight and stock recommendations for investors of all skill sets and risk levels. You all know how much I love researching new stocks and trying to find the next best investment, so I'm proud to partner with The Motley Fool to bring you 10 stock picks from their popular product, Stock Advisor. Stock Advisor has beaten the market by more than 4 times, so go to fool.com/Frankel to get your 10 stock picks now. The Motley Fool Stock Advisor returns are 650% as of April 16th, 2024, and are measured against the S&P 500 returns of 148% as of April 16th, 2024.